All right, today I'll be reading Numbers 19, 20, and 21. And I'll also be reading Psalms 46 for the one story that leads to Jesus Bible reading plan. Across the barren expanse of wilderness, the exhausted Israelites walk on. What should have been a relatively short trip to the promised land stretches into decades. The people reach a breaking point as their water runs out, and panic whips them into rebellious rage against Moses. They accuse him of bringing them into the desert to die. Moses and Aaron seek God's counsel, but they fail to follow God's instructions. When God tells Moses to speak to the rock to bring forth water, Moses angrily smacks it with his staff. Even worse, Moses and Aaron take credit for God's miraculous provision. As Israel's leaders, Moses and Aaron bear tremendous responsibility for high stakes decisions. Their unbelief forfeits their opportunity to lead the people into the promised land. So they will die in the wilderness with the rest of the unbelieving generation. However, things take a turn with the next generation. When a Canaanite king attacks them, they ask God for help. When they rebel against God and find themselves swarmed by venomous snakes, they repent and humbly ask Moses to intercede. And when Sihon and Og block their way to the promised land, the Israelites easily conquer the rival king's army. Will this be the generation that learns from their parents' mistakes? All right, Numbers 19, the water of cleansing. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Give it to Eleazar the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar the priest is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tent of meeting. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned, its hide, flesh, blood, and intestines. The priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool and throw them onto the burning heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He may then come into the camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean till evening. The man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he too will be unclean till evening. A man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place after the camp, or outside the camp. They are to be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleansing. It is for purification from sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he too will be unclean until evening. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelites and for the foreigners residing among them. Whoever touches a human corpse will be unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves with the water on the third day and on the seventh day. Then they will be clean. But if they do not purify themselves on the third and seventh days, they will not be clean. If they if they fail to purify themselves after touching a human corpse, they defile the Lord's tabernacle. They must be cut off from Israel. Because the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them, they are unclean. Their uncleanness remains on them. This is the law that applies when a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent and anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days. And every open container without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. Anyone out in the open who touches someone who has been killed with a sword, or someone who has died a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. For the unclean person, put some ashes from the burnt purification offering into a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then a man who is ceremonially clean is to take some hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle the tent and all the furnishings and the people who were there. He must also sprinkle anyone who has touched a human bone or a grave, or anyone who has killed, or anyone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle those who are unclean on the 3rd and 7th days, and on the 7th day he is to purify them. Those who are being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and that evening they will be clean. But if those who are unclean do not purify themselves, they must be cut off from the community. Because they have defiled the sanctuary of the Lord, the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them, and they are unclean. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkles the water of cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of cleansing will be unclean till evening. Anything that is an unclean person touches Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean until evening. All right, moving on to Numbers 20. Water from the rock. In the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into the wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance to the tent of meeting and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink." So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them." These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord, and where he was poured holy among them. Edom denies Israel passage. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, "This is what your brother Israel says. You know about all the hardships that have come to on us. Our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived there many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our ancestors. But when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. Now we are here at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway and not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. But Edom answered, You may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with the sword. The Israelites replied, We will go along the main road, and if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. Again, they answered, You may not pass through. The Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. Since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. The death of Aaron. The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. At Mount Hor, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I give the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Get Aaron and his son Eleazar, and take them up Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, for Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will die there. Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, and Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain, and when the whole community learned that Aaron had died, all the Israelites mourned for him 30 days. All right, I'm going to read this section here. Should the miracles in the Bible be read literally? So I guess it's referring to Numbers 20:11. Moses raises his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. So Numbers 20, verses 1 to 11, records a miraculous event. Examining accounts like this opens up important questions for the Bible reader. If a historian allows for the possibility of the miraculous, doesn't that throw history up for grabs? Couldn't readers invoke a miraculous explanation for all kinds of things that happened in the past? Not at all. When studying ancient documents, you have to apply the historical criteria to determine the best explanation for what actually occurred. For example, Aesop's fables describe animals talking in ancient Greece. Well, did they talk or didn't they? When we examine the genre of Aesop's fables, we find that these stories were not meant to be interpreted literally. Besides, there are no credible eyewitness accounts, and there's no corroboration from other sources. So the historian would say there's no good evidence that Aesop's fable report actual historical events. On the other hand, the miracles of the Old Testament, such as Moses providing water from a rock, seem to fit the historical narrative, as do the miracles of the New Testament. For example, regarding the miracle of Jesus' resurrection, we find that the Gospels fit into the genre of ancient biographies. We know that ancient biographies were intended to be regarded as history to varying degrees. We've got early accounts that can't be explained away by legendary development. We've got multiple independent resources or sources. We've got eyewitnesses. We've got a degree of corroboration from outsiders. We've also got enemy attestation. So, weighing the historical criteria, there's no reason to believe Aesop's fables are true, but there are good reasons to believe the resurrection happened. All right, Numbers 21. Arad destroyed. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to At-Haram, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. Then Israel made this vow to the Lord: if you will deliver these people into our hands, we will totally destroy their cities. The Lord listened to Israel's plea and gave the Canaanites over to them. They completely destroyed them and their towns, so that so the place was named Hormah, the bronze snake. They traveled from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom, but the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, "Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food." Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then, when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. The journey to Moab. The Israelites moved on and camped at Aboth. Then they set out from Aboth and camped in Aid Aid Eberam in the wilderness that faces Moab toward the sunrise. From there, they moved on and camped in the Zered Valley. They set out from there and camped alongside the Arnon, which is in the wilderness extending into Amorite territory. The Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. That is why the book of the wars of the Lord says Zahab in Suphah and the ravines, the Arnon, and the slopes of the ravines that lead to the settlement of Ar and lie along the border of Moab. From there, they continued on to Beer, the well where the Lord said to Moses, "Gather the people together, and I will give them water." Then Israel sang the song, "Spring up, O well, sing about the well that the princes dug, that the nobles of the people sank, the nobles with scepters and staffs." Then they went from the wilderness to Mattanah, from Mattanah to Nahaliel, from Nahathliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley of in Moab, where the top of Pisgah overlooks the wasteland. Defeat the Sinhan and Og. Israel sent messengers to say to Sinhan, king of the Amorites, "Let us pass through your country." We will not turn aside into any field or vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the king's highway until we have passed through your territory. But Sinhan would not let Israel pass through his territory. He mustered his entire army and marched out into the wilderness against Israel. When he reached Jahaz, he fought with Israel. Israel, however, put him to the sword and took over his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, but only as far as the Ammonites, because their border was fortified. Israel captured all the cities of the Amorites and occupied them, including Heshbon and all its surrounding settlements. Heshbon and the city of Sinhan, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and who had taken from him all his land and as far as the Arnon. That is why the poets say, "Come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt. Let Sinhan's city be restored." Fire went out from Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Sinhan, or Sihon. It consumed Ar of Moab, the citizens of Arnon's heights. Woe to you, Moab! You are destroyed, people of Chemosh. He has given up his sons as fugitives, and his daughters as captives to the Sinhan, king of the Amorites. But we have overthrown them. Heshbon's dominion has been destroyed all the way to Dibon. We have demolished them as far as Nophah, which extends to Medeba. So Israel settled in the land of Amorites. After Moses had sent spies to Jazer, the Israelites captured its surrounding settlements and drove out the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went up along the road toward Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, and his whole army marched out to meet them in battle at Edrei. The Lord said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So they struck him down, together with his sons and his whole army, leaving them no survivors, and they took possession of his land. All right. I'm going to read this section here. Is there archaeological evidence for Arad? And this is referring to Numbers 21, verse 1. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to Atharim, he attacked the Israelites and captured some of them. The ancient Israelite city of Arad was located at modern Tel Arad in the Negev, south of Jerusalem. Archaeological excavation there has uncovered a large, well-preserved early Bronze Age, 3200 to 2200 BC, city that served as an important post on key trade routes. Ostraca, pottery fragments containing writing bearing the name Arad have been found there. The location of Arad, however, poses a problem related to the conquest narrative. Numbers 21:1 states that the king of Arad attacked the Israelites who were traveling near the southern border of Canaan. After suffering an initial loss, Israel defeated this king and destroyed his cities. Yet Tel Arad lacks any remain dating to the time of Moses. A possible solution exists in the campaign account of Pharaoh Shishak, whose 10th century BC list mentions the conquest of two Arads. Arad the Great and the Arad of Ehrim. The Israelites could have destroyed the second Arad, the location of which remains uncertain. Another possibility is that the Arad mentioned in Numbers 21:1 and 33:40 actually refers to the general region. All right, moving on to Psalms. All right, Psalms 46 for the director of music of the sons of Korah, according to Alamoth, a song. God is our refuge and strength, an ever present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. Selah. There is a river whose stream make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help. God will help her break of day. Nations are in uproar. Kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice. The earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. Come and see the works of the Lord, the desolations he had brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. All right, that's it for day 46 of this Bible reading plan. Cheers.